Hi, and welcome back. I'm starting my new series, and my new theme is Rooks and Opposite colored Bishop endings. I chose this theme because there were some games in the European Team Chess Championship that made quite an impression on me, and I would like to start with this one between Judit Polgar, one of the famous Polgar sisters from Hungary, and Levan Pantsulaia, which is a strong grandmaster from Georgia. We joined the game after 36 moves, and here Judith decided to get into this opposite colored bishop's ending. You can see that the knight on c4 is a strong piece, and so she decided to play bishop takes c4. And okay, you see that in this ending, white is obviously better because simply because of the passed a pawn, but it's hard to believe that white should be winning. However, let's see what Judith does. First, she brings the king f2, and protects the a pawn. And now it's hard to find a plan to improve white's position. So Judith just plays some moves without many concrete threats. You can see that they're just moving around. Rook a6, and you can see that black's plan is to bring the king over here, or at least in this square, and this rook should protect the a pawn from queening, and this bishop can always come to e4 or h5 and might try to stop both pawns. But rook g1. Okay, white's plan is to play rook a4, rook b4, and rook b6. But you can see that in this position, if rook a4, bishop d3, protecting the weak c4 pawn, rook b4 is not possible because simply rook takes a5. So, in this position, Judith played rook g1. And okay, you can see that black cannot take the h4 pawn because that would be mate in 1. So it just comes back. And okay, just some tiny threat. You can see that in this position white is threatening some discover. It's probably not that bad, but maybe king g4 followed by h5. And so okay, king h7 coming back. Okay, now both sides are again just making what appears to be random moves. Of course, both have to be careful, especially black, not to allow white's a pawn to get too far. And okay, now black's rook is clamping a little bit black's king, but it's not doing much. So it just comes back again, forces black's king back, and now rook a1. So now the rook is behind the passed pawn, which is where it wants to be. And black plays rook a6. Now if you return some moves, you see that this position is the exact same position as I don't know, maybe 10-20 moves ago, but the black king is on h7 and the bishop is on d2, and that's a little bit different. So now rook a4 was played, bishop d3. Still white cannot play rook b4 since the a5 pawn would fall, but white played h5, and h5 is a good move because again it cramped a little bit black because the bishop cannot return to g6 anymore, the king cannot come to h6 or g6, and so black, yeah, it's hard to find a move for black. I mean, it's probably a draw, but it's not easy to see what to play. So black just came back, rook a8, rook a1, the rook is again coming back. Now that's this little maneuver already made white's h pawn to h5. Okay, black comes back, and now white's king is coming. Okay, now black, this move, black played here rook d8, and maybe that's where he started to go wrong, because okay, the rook is attacking the d4 pawn, and uh, white has to defend it. So let's say bishop c3 was played, and now the king can come to h6 because the bishop is no longer on d2. But the problem is that the rook is no longer protecting this a pawn, and so this a pawn is stronger. And Judith will use the fact that this rook is on d8 to start advancing this pawn. This pawn wants to go to a8, all the way to a8, and queen. So rook g1, and now black took the pawn. So it's good for black because this pawn was a really strong pawn, but the problem is that it opens the h file, and we will see how white uses it later. Rook h1, first gets king to g6. Okay, in this position, white cannot really take the pawn on g7 because after bishop g6, black just plays king h6 and king g7, and actually wins. So rook h1 in this position, little repetition, and now a6, and you can see why this rook really wanted to be on a8. So now it comes back to a8, rook a1, and rook a7, stopping the pawn. Oops. Okay, let me see if I can get the move. Yes, rook a7. So now it stops the a pawn from coming to a7, but Judit probably foreseen it and played d5, so sacrificing a pawn, yet another pawn after the h5 pawn, but the bishop comes to d4. And now this is a really strong pawn. This a7 pawn is almost queening, so white just has to find a way of getting the a8 rook out, and then it's game over. Okay, so black played king h5, and white played e6, and that's a very nice move. So if black takes, let's say black takes, white plays rook g1, and it follows with rook takes g7, and yeah, just after rook takes g7, rook b7, and rook b8. Now I'm wondering if in this position black can play c3, because bishop takes just loses the a7 pawn, and after b takes b2. Yeah, this might be a good solution. So maybe not rook g1. Maybe instead rook h1. Yeah, rook h1, and now rook g1. And rook takes g7. I guess this was white's idea. But instead of taking the pawn, black preferred to play g5. So you can see, okay, white played here, and now after rook h1, king g4, the rook can no longer give this check and win the pawn. But here simply rook h8, and you can see that this bishop is protecting the rook, the a7 pawn, and white will get a new queen. Black still try to fight here with rook takes a7, and maybe that's why black played this move g5, just to get the pawn a little bit further to try to also make a new queen. But here Judith took, and after e5 the position is not so clear, since black has many pawns for the rook. Black has 4 pawns, but Judith eventually won the ending after only 15 moves, I think. And okay, if you want to see the game, feel free to see it. It's available on the European Team Chess Championship website. So thanks for watching, and in the next video we'll look at another game in this theme.